Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us once again here on the African Reform Movement channel, where we discuss everything related to African reform with an emphasis on Ghana. For those of you joining us for the very first time today, you are welcome. My name is Uche, and as always, we have Dr. Nii and Mudaka with us this morning. Just a few things here. Again, if you're new, oops, not that. Dr. Nii has a number of platforms, social media platforms, so feel free to connect with him there after the show if you'd like. He has a website, Sankofa Africa, in which he writes a number of extensive articles, which will give you a lot of food for thought. If you want to speak to him about afterwards, please feel free to contact him on either Twitter or on his Instagram accounts. With YouTube, we thank you for all those of you who join us via YouTube. I do want to stress, please remember to select the notification bell so that anytime we're planning to go live or do anything, you'll be notified first, okay? Dr. Nii is also quite a prolific author. He's authored a number of books, all of which can be purchased at his Book Nook store. All of this information is in the description box of this particular broadcast. So if you don't get it down now, please, at the end of the show, go to the description box and all of this information will be there. So today's title is Africa in the Modern World. I know Dr. Nii is raring to go with this one. So Dr. Nii, welcome and share with us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Uche, and thanks for all those who have joined us this morning in Ghana and across the world. This, as you can see, I'm on call. This is my first time working about 8 weeks. So I've forgotten half of my medicine. But anyway, I haven't forgotten the African politics. Today we are talking about Africa in the modern world. A short recap of what has happened before this point. Or let me put it this way, where this is coming from, where this topic is coming from. You know, I finished O-level 1984, I finished A-level 1986, so we were forced then to do 1 year national service before going to university. So I went to university in 1987. In the University of Ghana, there was a course called African Studies that every student will have to do and pass before he could continue to do whatever he wanted to do in second year, blah, blah, blah. And for me, when we went to AfroStars, the course I chose in 1987 was Africa in the Modern World. So that topic has stayed with me since then. And I still remember the things we learned there. The person who taught us most of the course, Professor Petua Menu, a firebrand of the left on campus then, a very cute woman then. Now she I think she has retired. She's now a little bit of an old lady, but I really used to like, actually, part of the reason why I went to the course was her. I've heard of her and their views on Africa and her patriotic zeal. So that's where the title came from, Africa in the Modern World. I look at it as post-colonial Africa, Africa in the modern world. And in the last week or so, I've been, dealing with things that significant Africans have done and have said in the past that inspired me very much, chief of whom was Steve Biko. Today, we'll talk about him again, and we'll talk about how he defined his Black consciousness movement, why the movement came into being at all. And they relate to something that one guy, Simba Makoni, a former Minister of Finance in Zimbabwe, said concerning Zimbabwe's transition from Ian Smith's government to that of Mugabe and the consequences and some of the things that happened. So without much ado, we'll just move on to first slide, please. Africa in the modern world, post-colonial Africa and the PEST challenge. And I said, only Biko understood it. No one else. No one else did. Now, the PEST challenge is P is political, E is economical, S is sociological, and T is technological. These are the 4 main challenges facing Africa in the modern world. We are struggling politically, we are struggling economically, we are struggling sociologically or socially, and we are struggling technologically. We are struggling in every area. And it's only people who understand, who saw this coming, because he knew that all these things come from one point. Consciousness. 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 These are the symptoms or the failures of failed consciousness. What we see as our problems, they are actually the effects of failed consciousness. That's not the cause of the problem. We've got to trace the cause of the problem in order to be able to fix the challenges. And Only Biko understood it. Next slide, please. Biko defines BCM, Black Consciousness Movement. I'll read what he said. Now, this is a 23, 24-year-old medical student speaking, okay? Not an old man like me. This man, at the time he spoke this, was at the age of my daughter. Incredible young man. This is the first truth, bitter as it may seem, that we have to acknowledge before we can start on any program designed to change the status quo. It's going to be painful, but unless we acknowledge this fundamental principle, this fundamental truth, this incontrovertible truth, we cannot design anything. We cannot do anything about the status quo. Then he continued. The first step, therefore, is to make the Black man come to himself, to pump life back into his empty shell, to infuse him with pride and dignity, to remind him of his complicity in the crime of allowing himself to be misused and therefore letting evil reign supreme in the country of his birth. Don't run away from the responsibility. You have to accept your complicity in your predicament. This is the first step. You must come back to yourself. You must pump life back into your empty shell. We have to understand this fundamental principle. Otherwise, we are wasting everybody's time. Otherwise, we are wasting everybody's time. This is what we mean by an inward-looking process. This is the definition of Black consciousness. Full stop. Full stop. This is what we mean by an inward-looking process. This is the definition of Black consciousness. Nobody ever spoke anything like this in his generation and even in our generation. We lost the plot. We have completely lost the plot. The basis of our failure politically, economically, socially, and technologically is from here. A very low state of consciousness. And we haven't examined it, let alone even prefer a solution on the way forward. Next slide, please. Simba Makoni and ZANU-PF. Zimbabwean African National Union Patriotic Front. This was the party led by Mugabe. The other one was ZAPU-PF. Zimbabwean African People's Union Patriotic Front led by Joshua Nkomo. All right. Now, the two of them formed the Patriotic Front. Simba Makoni was the youngest minister that Mugabe ever appointed, I think at the age of 30 at the time of independence. So he was just about 4 years younger than Steve Biko. So you could see that he belonged to the Biko's generation. Though Biko was in South Africa and he was in Zimbabwe, there is no difference. When it comes to the Black man and his consciousness, it is exactly the same everywhere. Even in Haiti or in America or in Brazil, brothers and sisters, we are in trouble. Please let us watch this video and tell what you think after.
I recall very clearly that when we came into office in 1980, we inherited Ian Smith's systems. And Ian Smith's ministers drove Peugeot 504s. They drove themselves from home to work in their Land Rovers and all in kinds. Most of them were farmers. They parked their Land Rover and then they used the government vehicle when they were at work with a chauffeur. When they finished at night, they packed them and they took theirs to go home. Within the month of our coming into office, Prime Minister Mugabe then directed that every minister be issued with an E-class Mercedes-Benz. And the Peugeot 504s were retired to permanent secretaries, and the deputy ministers who then took over. We can also look at many other things, small they may appear at the time. Let me hazard that even at that point, Enos Nkala was our Minister of Finance. I don't think we knew what budget we inherited from Ian Smith when the decision was taken to buy those E-class fleets for the ministers. So the material, affection for material things has always been with us. And the differentiation also, even going back into the camps, Zema Shefu, Neze, my comrades, Makada, were not the same. So much so that even today, when the so-called Minister for Presidential Affairs or Provincial Governor, as they were, goes to Bubi or Binga, they will be served separately and differently from the other people. The avarice grew as we began to exploit the opportunities of office. When I was in the government, the minister was allocated one vehicle that they kept, which was the sedan they used in town. If you needed to go off-road, then your ministry hired off-road vehicles from the CMED, and you were charged for it. Now a minister will have an average of 4 vehicles in his forecourt, all at government's expense.
So the leadership modeled the wrong kind of behavior, and that kind of behavior permeated all across our society. Our CEOs, like you're saying, heads of parastatals and so forth, modeled from the top.
Indeed. Indeed. I made a passing reference that we have CEOs who will buy themselves a luxury car when they can't pay wages at the end of the week or end of the month. This has been so entrenched in our psyche, this showing off, as if you are a different person. You're breathing different air from those who don't drive Prados and Land Cruisers, from those who don't drive Jeep Cherokees. We have lost our humanity. There's lots of reference to Ubuntu, very farcical, superficial, not coming from the heart. We have changed. We have changed because of our appetite for power. And we have changed because of our avarice for material things. I think when we begin to associate a position of authority and responsibility with material well-being and acquisitions, that's when the rot set in. A Toyota Cressida isn't worth much compared to 6 kgs of gold and 15 billion worth of Marange diamonds. And backhanders on contracts to pave 200 kilometers of roads. So when you ask, is there a moment? There is not one, but quite clearly, I think we began to change noticeably in the latter half of the 80s into the early 90s. Our character became preoccupied with power, with control, and with accumulation. That's where I would put the starting line.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
Good. I'm sure you all watched this short clip of Simba Makoni talking about Zimbabwe, the descent in the bottomless pit. And he said when they came to power, Ian Smith, the one who did the UDI, Unilateral Declaration of Independence of Zimbabwe, he declared Zimbabwe independent from the Queen and made himself prime minister and established a minority government of white people, white settlers. He said when he came, he's not even sure whether the finance minister then knew what was in the kitty before Mugabe actually ordered those cars. This Ian Smith that we call all sorts of names, his ministers used Peugeot 504. God, they think about the people. And Ian Smith used to tell the people that the Zimbabweans were the happiest black people, the best living black people on earth. And they fought him. Only for them to come to destroy completely. And this was a long interview. It went in 2 parts, I think total of 88 minutes or something like that. You guys must look for it and watch the whole thing. Then you cry. Then you understand why Steve Biko said, nah, we have to acknowledge our complicity in our own predicaments. It is today, it is true then, and it's true today. And that's why he was eliminated. This Makoni, this Simba Makoni, belonged to Biko's generation. When he was made minister, he was only 30 years old. Biko would have been 34 if he was alive at that time. And if Biko were to be alive at that time, I don't believe Mugabe would have gotten away with what he did. Because Biko would criticize him because they fought together, together as pushing for independence in Southern Africa. But they killed Biko, and the revolution at that point ended. Their generation revolution, because these guys, they actually, you say that, technically, they were children of Mandela and Mugabe. They were with them, but they were their children. Like some of my lieutenants are young enough to be my children. They were their children, and they were going to take a different kind of approach to the African issue. Unfortunately, Biko was killed, and people like Simba, they lost their natural leader. We haven't recovered. When they came, within 1 month, they ordered E-class Mercedes-Benz without knowing even what was in the kit. And it kept rolling until when they lost control completely. He said that would be from maybe the late 80s, less than 10 years after independence, they lost control. Because the foundation was not there. The foundation was the high consciousness, what to think, how to implement what you think, and how to think properly. The foundation wasn't there. It was just political. We are black people, we are the majority who must rule. Fair enough, but do you have what it takes to rule? The first truth. The first truth. Unless we accept the first truth, we are not going to go anywhere soon. Unless we accept the first truth, we cannot change the status quo. So what is the way forward? Next slide, please. Rebirth of BCM. Rebirth of Black Consciousness Movement and Africans' own Age of Enlightenment. I was talking about this before. You see, if you've been to Europe before, you realize that whether you're in Eastern Europe or you're in Western Europe, there is this basic infrastructure and there's this basic way of doing things that permeate every society. And it's because the Age of Enlightenment in Europe was a continental affair. Obviously, it was started largely in the UK, but it spread across the whole of Europe that they all came to the same point of consciousness, that everything from that point sprang almost uniformly across Europe. That's why you can have Russia in Eastern Europe to Asia manufacturing bombs like those in the West. The technology was across board. The social movement that came, you have the French Revolution, you have all these, everything was happening around the same time because the awakenings, the consciousness was aroused around the same time. It was continental. Prior to this, you had the Reformation also, which was continental, that is spread across everywhere. The Catholic Church broke down. You have the Anglican, you have the Protestants, because people were beginning to ask, people were challenging the status quo, people were challenging dogma, because their eyes have been opened. Light has entered, and darkness could not withstand it. That is one process that is lacking in Africa. All we do is copy and paste. And it doesn't work, and it hasn't worked. And like Einstein said, if you do the same thing and you expect different results, then you are insane. We've been doing the same thing. We had our first republic, our second republic, our third republic, and the most dangerous of all, the fourth republic. And nothing has changed. Because it's not coming from the depths. Like Simba said, we talk about Ubuntu is farcical. We talk about African unity, it's farcical. Because when Nigerians come to Ghana and they are prospering, Ghanaians would become angry and xenophobic and want to chase them. When the Ghanaians went to Nigeria and they were prospering, Nigerians became xenophobic and chased them. And then when we meet, we say, Africa must unite. It's farcical. Ubuntu is farcical. It's not from the heart. It's from a very shallow set of whatever. We have serious problem. The PEST challenge. Political, economical, social, and technological. We haven't even started, and the world is moving forward leaps and bounds. Relatively, the gap between Africa and the rest of the world has widened. Because once we're standing at ease, or once we're stationary, the world is moving forward in leaps and bounds. In fact, we have actually retrogressed in many areas. Because for Ghana, we were better off 30 years ago than today. In terms of everything. So we are in trouble. We are in big trouble. I don't know what people see the way I do. But when I think about Ghana, I just came back from Ghana and I look at the way people were behaving there and what we are doing here in Australia. And I feel like dying. You ask yourself very serious questions. You ask yourself very serious questions. But we got to press on. We need our own age of enlightenment. And that's what I'm committed to do. To bring light to the people sitting in darkness. You see, it's not a black thing. It's a universal thing, but others pick this very early and they move away from it. They allow light to come in so that they could defeat darkness. We haven't, and we make politics of that. Before the Age of Enlightenment in Europe, if there was a period called Age of Enlightenment, before that period, it was Age of Darkness. That's where we are. Brothers and sisters, this is the first truth. And unless we accept it, we cannot change the status quo. The first truth. We have to accept the first truth. We have to acknowledge it. We have to accept that in our mess, we are complicit in our mess. That's what Simba Makoni said. He said within 1 month. And it's even worse today because now you have 4 cars parked in front of a minister's forecourt. It's even worse now. Because the whole attitude to politics, to go into politics, is to accumulate. To accumulate. The whole reason why people go into politics is to accumulate wealth. The avarice. The greed. Service to a nation is zero. And that's where we are. We are complicit in our own affairs. Nobody else. The way forward is rebirth of BCM and Africa's own age of enlightenment. Next slide, please. Oh, how is that going to happen? Well, I believe that the African Reform Movement is an engine to propel this. I strongly believe that. Like I said before, Biko defined Black consciousness, and we are here to reform what Biko defined. I believe the ARM is a logical conclusion of Biko's BCM. What Biko started, that he couldn't finish because his life was truncated and was eliminated. We are here to complete it, to reform the mindset of the African. Without that, there's no way. Like Biko said, the battlefield is the mind. And the greatest possession of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Unless we reform that mindset, we are not going to go anywhere. And that's why ARM is here. Now, we're doing some reorganization of the whole movement. We're going to have ARM International, okay, ARM International, or AMI, ARMI. And then it's going to have 6 national, regional, or continental branches. So ARM Africa will be based, we'll have branches in South Africa, that's SA, Ghana, which is G, and E, which is Ethiopia. The Ethiopian one is of historical significance. As for Ghana and South Africa, these are my 2 countries on the continent. And then we'll have America and Canada, ARM America and Canada. Then we have ARM Asia and the Middle East. Then ARM Australia and New Zealand. Then ARM Britain and Ireland and ARM Europe. These are places where we have the largest concentration of Ghanaians and where we believe that we can organize ourselves into a force that will pose centripetal energy into, you know what centripetal? When forces act in concert towards a center. The center here is Ghana. Okay, so from all these angles, the force will be descending on Ghana so that we will be able to have what? A combined force able to overcome and win, able to overcome the Siamese twins and win the 2024 elections. This is the way I believe that we are going to rebirth, because original agenda, they are going to bring light into Africa. You know one thing, the light shines and darkness cannot comprehend it. There is nowhere in the world where light shines, darkness stands. When light shines, darkness falls. And that's what we need. We need a new level of consciousness. Like Einstein said, it is impossible to solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. It means that all problems come from consciousness, a lower consciousness. And all solutions also come from consciousness, a higher consciousness. So in order to solve a problem created by a lower consciousness, you must arise above it to do so. And like Marcus Garvey said, intelligence rules the world and ignorance carries its burdens. Therefore, move yourself as far as possible from ignorance and seek as much as possible to be intelligent. That's the only way we can rule the world. That's the only way we can solve the PEST challenge, brothers and sisters. And we all have an opportunity here in the fold of ARM International to help bring about this revolution. Try Omanye Abba.
Dr. Nii, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so everybody, if you haven't already, get your questions in. I'm going to post up one question I've got here, but everybody else will ask you to really start thinking of the questions you want to ask Dr. Nii. Okay, there's one from Shika. It says, so was Biko killed by his own people?
No, Biko was killed by the apartheid regime, definitely. This was in the wake of the Soweto uprising in 1976. And when he was arrested, he was beaten to death in apartheid cells. So, no, he was killed by the apartheid machine, because the way he was talking, it was just too... I mean, the man could look at his people at that point in time and said, you know, you are being controlled because we lost power. We lost power because our minds were simple and unsophisticated. The only way we can win power back is to have sophisticated mind and throw away the simpleton mind, like a simpleton mindset we have. That is too dangerous because at that point in time, the whites were saying we're inferior. And say, well, don't blame them, forget about that. They can say what they want to say, but I'm telling you, they have conquered you because you are unsophisticated. They have conquered you because you are simpletons. And the only way you can regain that control is to change the mindset and be on top of them. Otherwise, it will be like this forever. That is too dangerous. Too dangerous. You see, because we know that correct treatment follows correct diagnosis. People can pamper you and lie and tell you all sorts of foolish things, but unless the truth is spoken to you and you take the truth as it should be, you're not going to go anywhere. Let the white leftists and those jokers say what they want to say. He said, don't worry about that. You can say what they want to say, but I'm telling you that the reason why you are where you are is because you are unsophisticated. You think simple. You don't think deep. You don't look at things critically. You think feudal, or it's my tribesman, or it's my churchman, or it's my this, and it's my that. So you follow. Biko refused to join the ANC. They were just jokers. And how true was he? How true was he? Look at what ANC is doing. Look at what ANC is doing. I mean, in 1998, the PAC, Pan-Africanist Congress leader in KwaZulu-Natal, John Kwananzi, I met him at a party, and he immediately said, if I was Ghanaian, that I should join PAC. He told me the history of PAC, how Nkrumah from PAC, from ANC, what Nkrumah did for them, I should join PAC. We became very good friends. We were then having major problems as African doctors in South Africa, and I got a number from Winnie Mandela from him, and I called Winnie one Saturday. It was October, I think I've forgotten the date, but something October 1998. When I called Winnie, strangely she picked the call. It was Saturday morning. I said, good morning, Mama. They said, oh, good morning. Then she spoke in Zulu or something there. I said, no, I don't speak Zulu. I'm from Ghana. Oh, you're from Ghana. How can I help you? Then I started talking to her about, then I'll never forget. I'm saying this, she's dead, and I'm saying this. When she died, and I made a tribute, an audio tribute, I said it. And those who knew it. Okay? And I'm saying it here. Winnie told me that my son, the ANC died with Chris Hani. The day Chris Hani was shot and killed, that's the day the ANC died. I know what you are saying, but me, Winnie, if I go and speak for you in Parliament, your case will be worse because my own ANC, they hate me for speaking the truth. This is what she told me. I'm saying this. This is somebody who has died, and I'm saying it in their name. Winnie Mandela, yeah, that's what she told me. She told me it's better if I should go and speak with Patricia DeLille. But if she goes to speak for me, our case will be worse. But ANC died with Chris Hani. And I'm telling you that generation of Chris Hani, of Biko, and people like Simba and people like Walter Rodney, their generation, they were supposed to launch the real revolution, which they missed, but their natural leader, Biko, was killed. That baton has been given to us, and it's our duty to launch that revolution. And they're going to start in Ghana, I tell you.
Okay. Well, in lieu of other questions, just wait for other people to ask some questions. We had a conversation yesterday, and I just want to ask again. People like Walter Rodney, Rebirth Africa, Steve Biko, their revelation appears to be divine. Because I remember you said it before, it isn't about necessarily your education or wherever you are. In spite of their poverty or whatever, they had these incredible mindsets to be able to see things that others around them couldn't see. So, for those who don't necessarily have that spiritual revelation, how would other men and women who need to get to that same level get there? What will it take for them to be able to also think along the same lines outside of divine revelation?
Yeah. And I know. I remember we had the chat about it. You see, after I spoke with you, what came to my mind was when they brought the fishermen and peasants who were disciples of Jesus into the Sahindri. What remark they say? After they spoke, these ordinary people, after they said that, we know that they have been with Jesus. That's what the apostle recorded that. Oh, after they say, no, this will have been with Jesus. And that's the way it is. Because not everybody will have that revelation. But when the revelation comes, it's about the leader able to communicate properly what he's seeing, what his mind is comprehending to the followers. And then it's up to them to take the message to the next level. Because you realize that there will be, in fact, in Numbers, I think it's Numbers 11 or 12, I forgot to cross-check. But the job was too much for Moses. He just couldn't do it. So he asked God what to do. And then God told him that he should pick 70 of the elders from all the tribes, and he should go and impart his spirit upon them, so that where he couldn't be, they will act in his stead. So he gathered them, and all the tribes brought their leaders, and I think he laid hands on them, and he gave part of his spirit to them so that they could act in his stead. And that's the way it is. I think the key here is a very important thing you have raised, because not everybody will see what Biko saw. Not everybody will see what I see. Not everybody will see what you see. But how do we move as a group if what we are seeing is the way to go? I think it's proper communication. And I hope that the reorganization of ARM into ARMI and the various branches will help that message percolate, because then whatever information I have, I give it to leaders in those regions, and they also spread it further, so that we come with one accord, like happened under this black man. What's his name? The one who tried to build the Tower of Babylon. Oh God, I remember the name.
Oh gosh, I know the name's gonna escape me. Yeah,
he was the grandson of Cush, so obviously he was a black man. And they said that the people were one. That's the Bible said the people is one with one mind, and God said, "Look, because the people is one, I could not do anything about their decision. The only thing I can do is to confuse them. The people is one. How that leader, oh God, what's the name? And how this single leader could unite the people with one mind. And when he united, he said that, let us build a city whose top will reach into the heavens. He was basically saying that, let us go as far as possible.
Nimrod.
Yeah. Nimrod, the grandson of Cush. Nimrod was a black man. The one who built the city of Babel, you have to read the geography. He was a black man, son of and grandson of Cush, grandson of Ethiopia. Cush is the same as Ethiopia, or black. The people were one, and that's why he was able to mobilize the people with one accord and say, we are going to build a city that will reach into the sky. The sky is our limit. What are we doing to that as black people? And God himself said, there was nothing I could do about this thing. The only thing I have within my sovereignty is to convince their language. So, leadership should get a clear message, clear vision, and find a mechanism of spreading it down. The biggest problem we have now is the youth and the young ones coming. They are losing interest in politics and politicians because they've been deceived over and over and over. They are losing interest in this. So now that's the inertia. That's the force of inertia. That's the resistance, actually, as far as I'm concerned. Because you talk, people say, oh, you'll be like them when you get power. Oh, we know you. You'll be like them. That's what they told us. This one said this one said, and that's the problem we are going to face. So when I think about it, I watched a film when I was in medical school, The 11th Commandment. It's a film built on the Arab terror, what they call it, the Palestinian, the Fatah group, or whatever, in Islamic Jihad, or whatever their name was then, that killed the Jewish athletes in the Munich Olympic Games 1972.
Oh, yes.
Now, after that massacre, Golda Meir and Moshe Dayan, they planned that they're going to form a crack group that will trace and locate all the Palestinian terrorists, murderers, and kill all of them. So they went around schools in Israel and picked the best students. And they taught them, there's a new film now called Munich, based on the same thing. It taught them how to open doors, set bombs, all those things, how to locate with security. And one day when they finished cabinet, They were coming out. Then Godamaya went to Mushidayan. Then he said, you know what is worrying me? We are turning our best brains into murderers. We are turning our best brains into murderers. We are allowing these Arabs to set our agenda for us.
The group is called Black September, you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. You know, they say we are turning our brightest students into murderers. But they believe it was a national duty to kill these Arab terrorists. Now, that's the problem we are facing now. These are politicians are turning our people, our young ones, away from politics. They're effectively destroying the future. Once Godamaya was worried that although what they're doing was necessary for their national ego, she was still concerned that how are we going to win them off this edge to kill? She was concerned about the future, but not in Ghana, not in Africa. We are destroying our children with the kind of politics we are doing. And we don't care. And for me, that's a big challenge. How to let them believe that I'm different from the rest? Because it should take more than words. I think that's what they will think. So that's the biggest challenge. But like I was coming back to your question, the clear way, the clear pathway is what they told the disciples or the former disciples that we know you are being obedient because they could declare that these ordinary fishermen could not speak like this.
Yeah.
Few weeks ago, they were running away from young children. They were denying Jesus before young children. Now they are so emboldened, so empowered. They are being obedient. So that's what happens when the revelation comes. Because some of the things that Biko said at his age, it must have come from divine revelation. It could be very, very smart, but now, I mean, you know, yeah. So some of us we have our own grace, but maybe not as much as his. But we also have our own grace. We can also do a little to move the revolution forward.
On another note, and with regards to like you mentioned, Chris Hani, he was killed by the apartheid regime.
Yes.
Biko was killed by the apartheid regime. And there have been other African leaders who've also been murdered. People of the same class who are very visionary in what needs to happen to their countries in order for their countries to come up from where they are. Should anybody who is thinking of really following that path settle in their minds that it might cost them their life?
Yes. And I could be killed. But whether I live or whether I die, I'm for the Lord.
Yeah.
I'm for the cause.
But see, what it's kind of like a hard thing to kind of for a lot of people to grasp, and understandably so. You want to see your country progress, but you've seen others who've gone before you. What's happened to them? And you obviously, if you're married, got children, you don't necessarily want that to be the price. Why is that the only price? There's no other way around it? I mean, is there any way through that, or should you just expect that it's all part and parcel of the course?
I'll tell you this. When I was in Ghana for 6 weeks, I lived in 4 hotels. And I drove 4 cars, and I used Uber, and I did everything I could humanly do to evade the murderers. That's all I could do. And I lived there safely, and I returned safely. It cost me money to live in 4 different hotels. The least I was charged was $106 a night. The least. So it's a lot of sacrifice. But I know, even in spite of that, I could still be killed. But we're talking about Biko today because it's too for something. He presents something. So yeah, it may not be me. I could be killed. But what I'm saying today, somebody will say in 30 years' time that there was this man, and the revolution will go on. So I'm not scared. Africa will be redeemed.
Amen. Question here from Kenneth. Good move to have ARM International. How is ARM Ghana doing?
ARM Ghana is in hibernation at the moment. To answer simply, it's in hibernation because all these structures is hard. It's very hard to organize people when there's no definite plan. So when we couldn't contest 2016 and we couldn't contest 2020, it's very difficult. But now that we got a definite plan that 2024 is going to happen, people will now be energized. So we still have the EcoFed regional groups. We still have a lot of district EcoFed in the districts. So it's not too bad. We have the structures there, yes, that we need to whip up. And now that EcoFed Ghana, as it's going to be reorganized now, we have its own leader and not me. And I believe that once I'm removed from these structures, because sometimes people can't talk because they think I'm there. I don't know why. So once I remove myself from this and they have their own leader, ARM Ghana, I think it will be a lot easier to manage. They will hear from me now and again, but then I'll be a little bit out of their way to do their own thing under guidance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. Okay. Just another comment from Shikas here says, we are complicit in our own oppression indeed.
Yes, we are.
Okay, another something.
You see Ghanaians talking about Russian invasion of Ukraine, and it's a very complex. I don't want to go there because no, I don't talk about superpower politics. I can't sit in Ubewuku in Osu. You know what Ubewuku means? You don't have family. When you go to Osu beach, people have built shacks there, and they call themselves Ubewuku. We don't have family, so here's our own home. They flitted right from the castle. The Osu castle, right from the castle down. Less than 100 meters from Osu castle, we have Ubewuku Zongo there. Ubewuku Slam. You can't sit there and waste your time worrying about what they do in Trasako. Because that's where they were. That's where they said the house is $1.5 million, $2 million. You can't sit here. So I don't worry about superpower politics. But I was going to say something. What was it? I've lost my train of thought. Yes, we had elections in Ghana, and 8 or 9 people were killed. And Ghanaians don't talk about it. Russia has invaded Kuwait, and they talk about people being killed in Kuwait, people being killed in Ukraine. As if the Ghanaian life doesn't matter. Yeah, we are complicit in our own mess because for that reason, our lives don't matter. They killed Floyd George or whatever in America for whatever reason. Brutal though the killing may be, the president of Ghana held a whole night vigil. 8 of his own citizens were killed in an election. He couldn't be bothered. Not one single person has been arrested today. We are a disaster. We are a disaster. Anyway.
Okay, Lucille has said here, given that we in the diaspora are unable to vote, our focus should probably be on sourcing good communicators in Ghana who can motivate and inspire the young generation.
Yes, and that's the whole idea of the reorganizing. Like I said before, once we have the ARM Ghana, I'll step back and they will elect their own leader in ARM Ghana, and he or she is going to move and do what he has to do with a bit of inspiration and guidance from us or from me in that direction. Like I said before in the introduction, in the ARM base that I sent out, the constitution of ARM International will guide the branches on how to do their constitution and how to organize themselves. But they will do the main job in their localities. Yes. I agree with you.
Right, those are all the questions or comments we have, Dr. Nii. That's everything.
Oh, that's good. We finished in good time. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I promise we did. So thank you, those of you. So go ahead.
No, I know you got other things lined up. So I say, well, I'll try and make it very brief so that I don't step in the way of the Igbo lady.
So thank you to everybody who joined us. I hope you had a lot to take away and think about. Please remember to let your friends and family know that Dr. Nii Ewadako is the president of the African Reform Movement Party, and he is speaking every Saturday, 11 a.m. So they can come, join, listen, and pose their questions to him so he can answer them in real time. Okay?
Yeah, and let me say this before you go, please. Now, barring any dramatic happening in Ghana that will change the plan for next week. Next week, Ghana is going to be 65 years, and I'm going to talk about the legacy of Kwame Nkrumah and Ghana in the next 10 years.
Okay.
To commemorate our 65th anniversary, where we have come from, where we are today, and where I believe we should go in the next 10 to 20 years. Thank you very much. Okay, you can continue.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you again next week.